first impression. The query is your first impression. But, you know, if you stumble on the way out the gate, I'm not going to hold it against you. I actually want to see the writing.
Okay, I know you guys are using the query manager at the Bond Literary Agency, so somebody has to be extra obstinate to mess that up, because it's very clear about fill in these following steps before you hit submit.
It really is, but we only started using Query Manager in March of this year. Oh. So prior to that, there was a lot of, you know, here's my query. And then I actually did for a little while spend some time, if I saw what I thought was a promising query, you know, emailing the author back and saying, okay, great, send me a sample so I can see, you know, some of your writing. But yeah, I guess, again, long-winded story to say that, you know, I know that authors struggle with that. I think certainly people who work in art design, especially at the Bay houses, know what they're doing. I mean, even at the small publisher that I worked with, I saw some cover designs that like I had a hand in suggesting like what images to use on the cover and that sort of thing. And I was always amazed with what they came up with. So yeah, there might be some authors out there who are perfectly adept at designing the most, you know, fabulous cover for their book, but I would say for the most part, you want the people in the art design department doing that for you, because that's what they do for a living.
I have had the experience of telling my cover designer exactly the cover I thought I wanted, and he delivered exactly that cover, and it was terrible. Oh man, I should really ask you for your input, sir. You're the professional. I should defer to you. So with the 5 pages on the query manager, something struck me is, I mean, we're not killing trees. Everything's coming through electronically. Why not have somebody send you the full manuscript? So obviously you're not necessarily going to read past the 5 pages. Probably for a lot of them, you're not reading past page 1. But if you like those 5 pages and I've got your interest, wouldn't it be wonderful if right there in that moment while I have you captivated, you had more story to read to wherever you felt comfortable?
Yeah. And yeah. I don't have a good answer for that. I mean, you're right. It's actually, it's sad how often, and I'll back up before I'll qualify my statement before I make it. I try to be very nice because, well, for a number of reasons, but mostly, you know, I do this for a living. I work with authors. I love authors. I love books. I would love for every author who queries me to be fantastically talented. But, you know, some people, they're just not there yet. You know, the writing is just not there yet. And I feel terrible turning somebody down. I mean, it kind of feels like I'm telling you your child is ugly or something. You know, it's really, it's not fun. And so, yeah, a lot of times I don't get through even the first page before I know either the manuscript is not ready, or based on what the project is about, it's not going to be a good fit for me. You know, I can usually tell in less than one, and I can usually tell in less than 1 page if I want to see more. So I don't necessarily even read the whole 5 pages before I ask to see more. I'll just, you know, start in on the manuscript and say, like, I love the voice on this. I've got to read more. Like, I just want to dive into the whole thing. And I'll shoot off an email to the author and ask to see the whole manuscript. I think, though, it doesn't take long for my inbox, certainly, to become overwhelmed and for me to start feeling overwhelmed. And we do have a stipulation at our agency that if you do not receive a response, it's a pass. I do try to, again, sort of qualify that with authors and tell them, you know, if you don't hear from me, by all means, you can query me again. But I would say that having someone take the steps to follow the instructions, you know, include their query, include their first 5 pages, that is part of that first impression that your query is giving. You know, it's before I even get to the query. I know that you have read, you know, hopefully what I'm looking for. Hopefully this is in the genre that I'm looking for. Query Manager, again, makes that very easy because there's boxes that I get to check off saying specifically what I'm looking for. But yeah, it shows me you followed your instructions. Then I start reading your query. Then I start reading your writing. And then I can reach out to you and ask to see more. And I think that last bit, the, you know, getting an email from me asking to see the whole manuscript, at least you know then that I've read it, that I've read part of it and I'm asking to see more. Whereas if you were to just send your whole manuscript and just sit there waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, yeah. And I try to be clear with people when I ask for full manuscripts too. You know, I'm not necessarily going to be able to get to it that same day. That's always my intent. It's a little bit like going to the bookstore, picking up, you know, a book that you're interested in reading the cover, bringing it home, like you want to read it that day. But I have client projects that always have to take precedence over querying authors. I just this past weekend had to follow up with an author who I had read some things and then I asked to see more, and I had to follow up with that person because I said, you know, I know that they're probably sitting on pins and needles waiting to hear back from me because what they sent me was a work in progress. And I had to email them back and say, look, I don't want to leave you hanging. I don't want you stressing out, but I have client projects that all landed in my lap at the same time. And so I had to put yours on pause. And they were totally understanding about it, but you know, that happens. I'll request a manuscript, it'll come in, and then I'll get a client project, or I'll get a contract that needs reviewing, or, you know, something client-based that I have to deal with first before I can go back to the queries. So,
which of course authors will appreciate if they go on to become your client, that you're prioritizing them.
Exactly.
I hope every literary agent in the world just heard what you said, and that if you're going to have things come up and you're not going to be able to get to that full you requested for a little while, email the author. What a wonderful thing that you've done.
I actually do not usually have the opportunity to do that. This was, I won't say it was a special case, but it was a little bit of a special case because it was somebody that I had met, and the project that I requested was not finished. And so I knew that the author was going to be sort of extra nervous about that because it was not a finished project. And so I really didn't want them sitting there wringing their hands like, oh God, she hated it. I knew it wasn't ready and she asked to see it and she hated it. So I really just wanted to reassure that person because I knew that they would be extra concerned about their in progress baby being out in the world.